Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. Many of you have been asking me, how do you know who to trust? How can you spot the fakes, phonies, and frauds? And, I just did a video all about the Orange County Board of Supervisors. So this topic is right on my mind, the frauds, fakes, and phonies, as I say. It is absolutely stunning. And I would love to hear from you. What is on your list? What do you look for out of all the people that are, prominent voices in the freedom movement, those who have recently come on the scene, those who have been fighting for freedom for years, those like myself that have been in, I would say, related industries. I have, been a teacher. I've been an educator. I've been a researcher. I have a background in political science and international law and policy. It's something that is interesting to me. And I had a previous business where I was doing health and wellness. So I'm interested in health and natural living and healthy living. And thus I called my current business the Healthy American, especially because at the beginning of all this hogwash, they told us that we were sick and we didn't even know it. So I stood up in defiance and I did what I do best. And I research and I teach and I educate. So it was a natural transition for me to just begin to talk about this and spread this information. I've had online businesses in the past. So I am very interested in going on camera and talking about this. So it was a natural transition for me. When I see people that are popping up out of the woodwork, that is not a red flag in and of itself, but I am curious as to, especially if they're popping up now, like, where were you back in 2020? So that's something I want to know right away. Like, what were you doing in 2020? Were you going along with this? Were you even promoting it? Did you have an epiphany? And that's okay. I'm not going to say that is a one exact piece of information that is going to say whether someone is a fake, phony, and fraud, but I would like to know when they came upon their awakening. And I'm going to tell you a personal story. Let me lead off with this personal story. And this is what really got me curious as to trying to figure out who I could trust, who I couldn't, who I believed, who I didn't, who needed a little deeper digging. And I've done videos on, I'm not in the business of exposing people. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help you develop your sense of critical thinking so that we can share ideas together, expose the evildoers, and find solutions. That's what I'm all about. So here's a story in 2020. And I had made my videos about no governor can make a law and that the grounds for the emergency in California weren't valid because there wasn't enough information based on the law and the criteria. And that really launched the Healthy American. People asked me how I figured that out, how I knew about the health and safety codes, if I could help them learn about their own laws in their state, how they could stand up against these grocery stores that were requiring them to suffocate themselves, how to help their kids go to school without these draconian measures and so forth. So people were coming to me to ask for solutions. And that is how I really separated myself out from other YouTubers, is I did not just put people in the spin cycle. I was all about solutions and resources and remedies and tips and techniques and strategies, all based on law and your rights. I hardly ever speak about the science or medicine because that doesn't have any bearing to me whatsoever. I don't care if there's a perfectly safe and effective cooties cocktail that is filled with Hershey's chocolate syrup that allows you to live to be 120 years old. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter if 99.9% of the people are dying because of some mystery disease. It still doesn't matter because I have rights and you have rights. So I've never really focused on the science, the medicine, what's in the cocktails, how many people are dying. That is all secondary to the truth, which is no one has sovereignty over your body, period. And I stand on that, and I will continue to stand on that. So in, let's say, the summer of 2020, I was getting a lot of requests for public speaking. People wanted to interview me. They wanted me to go in person to different events that they had. And I was invited to I don't know the exact word to use now, because I thought it was a truther event. I thought it was all about standing up for your rights, and it was being held in Mexico. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is incredible. How in the world are people getting from the United States to Mexico on a plane without suffocating themselves? I want to hear all about this, because all of these top name people were going to be presenting there. So I got on the phone with one of the organizers. And again, I'm not in the business of exposing anybody. You can do your own research, but I will give you some criteria that I follow. And when I asked about that, like, I was just curious, do you guys have a private jet? Are you all going in a big bus? Are you driving? How do you get down into wherever it was in Mexico? Some nice resort. And again, it was like, oh my gosh, the shutdowns and everything in California were so severe. I needed a breath of fresh air, and I would have loved to be a part of this event. And he said, well, you're in California, you'd probably fly. And I said, oh, I know, but all of the airlines are requiring the suffocation devices, and I don't do that. And he was kind of like, oh, well, okay. Well, a lot of people would like to hear from you, as if a lot of people would like to hear from me is the reason why I would give up my own self-dignity, my own integrity, my own self-respect, my own rights, my own soul. I'm going to comply out of convenience so that I can have my picture on a flyer that I'm speaking at some great whatever event in Mexico. No, I don't think so. Okay. So that was the first thing where I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe these people are holding themselves out to be freedom people, and they're completely complying. Now, hear me out. I don't have anything against anybody's individual choice to do what they want to do at all. You want to put on the suffocation device, you want to get the nasal assault, you want to become a human pincushion, you want to tell me that you had to, you know what? You do you. But don't be putting yourself out as a freedom fighter, organizing an event for prominent people to come speak at, to talk about freedom, when you just gave away your own freedom to show up at that event. That's where I draw the line. That, my friend, has a word, and I know you know it. That's right, hypocrisy. I don't care for hypocrites at all. So I was stunned again, a second time, when I had this invitation show up in my email that there was going to be an event in Nevada, in Las Vegas. And I thought, well, that's probably better because I can drive from Southern California to Las Vegas. And I don't like Las Vegas. I don't like to be in the Sea of Evil. But they said it's going to be at this hotel. And I think it was even called the Tide of Truth, or the Truth Tellers. It had the word truth very prominent in the message. And I thought, well, I can drive to Nevada. And remember, I was being compelled to do these events because I wanted to meet people. I wanted to share my messages of truth. And I wanted to let everybody know that there is another way, and that these are not laws and you don't have to comply with them. And there are ways to fight back, just like driving instead of flying. And I thought, this is great. So I went on the hotel website where this event was being held, and I called the hotel. And I said, I have been invited to speak at this conference for truth telling, the tidal wave of truth, something like that. And I just want to make sure that I'm not going to be discriminated against and harassed because I worship God by breathing. And I would like to know what your accommodations are as required by law. And of course, they hemmed and hawed, and they were all flummoxed, and they didn't know what to say other than, what's our hotel policy? And everyone has to wear the suffocation device, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, for this event about truth and freedom and your rights, am I talking to the right coordinator? Sure enough, they were going to be wearing the scams at this event. So that was strike two. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I've already told the story many times about being kicked off of Southwest Airlines, which was not a big deal. Only it was a big deal because I already had a written confirmation from Southwest. This is in 2020 that I would be able to fly. They did not even have their policy in place. I specifically was flying on a Saturday, and the suffocation requirements were coming on Monday. We even had a little chuckle about it, like, oh, I'm slipping in under the wire. And I said, it's a good thing because I don't suffocate myself. And I had everything in writing, and they still kicked me off the flight. Now, that wasn't that disappointing because I know they're the serpents. What troubled me was seeing fellow patriots suffocate themselves to fly to Sacramento to this event for freedom. Again, telling me, hey, it's only 45 minutes. Everybody's there to see you. You can't leave them hanging. And I'm like, the protest is right here in the airport. It's not in Sacramento. I am protesting by not going. I am standing in my truth. I am walking my talk. And I could go on and on and on and on about all these prominent names that I saw showing up in Hawaii. Well, what did you swim? Did you swim to Hawaii? Because I'm pretty sure that you can't get into Hawaii back in 2020 unless you can either consented to a 2-week quarantine or you had the stick shoved up your nose. So which is it? Or later in the year that you became a human pincushion to go stand on a stage to talk about, let's create safe and effective cocktails. So that brings me to the next one. Are they constantly talking about making these cocktails safe? And there needs to be more research and there needs to be more government oversight. Friends, that is not the issue. The safety of the cocktail is never the issue. I hope they're safe. I hope nobody has side effects from this. I am not going to bring myself as low as the serpents that try to wish you harm. Well, I hope you'll never be able to go to a hospital. I hope you'll die. I mean, it's stunning, the death threats and the vile that was spewed at me just because I was telling people about their rights. I never told people not to become a human pincushion, although I probably did, subconsciously or surreptitiously, but that's not my point. My point is you decide. But my point is never about promoting the safety. I actually could care less about what's in it. And I think this fear mongering, the flu mongering of just the obsessiveness of going through the ingredients. What's the point? I'm never going to do it. Why would I care? Well, Peggy, you don't want to have your head in the sand. Other people don't know. I learned, you learned, they can learn. And there are plenty of prominent people out there talking about the ingredients, so they can find out about it. And that's not me. It is a sideshow to the actual circus that they are trying to pull over our eyes. It's a complete sideshow. Look over here, get all obsessed about the ingredients, get all obsessed about the VAERS report, get all obsessed about the side effects and the, sudden calamities and all of that, which are atrocious and they're horrible. And my heart goes out to anyone that has lost a loved one because of this. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the basis of the argument. It doesn't matter if people died or not. It doesn't matter if there are side effects or not. It doesn't matter if there's whatever these people are saying. That's the other thing. Some stuff is so outlandish. I just have to go, that does sound really outlandish, what they're purporting. And it's a sideshow, friends. So that is another red flag for me. Are they going off topic? So I think I've covered that enough. The other thing that really drives me crazy is, are they always talking about being an anti-globalist, but everything about them is globalist? Like they've got globes in the background of their podcast and videos, and not just one globe, but 2 globes or 3 globes. Why would you have a globe like as your decor? It doesn't make sense to me, especially if you're talking about getting out of the WHO or the WEF or the LMNOP, QRST, XYZ. It doesn't matter. Why in the world, if you are speaking out against all of this international control, but then you are putting forth your own international code of ethics or something? No, it's not about international anything. It's about localism. It's about your own community. It's about you. It's not even about community. It's about you not complying, not consenting. It's not about signing some petition of statement or whatever. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm asking you to send a letter to the Board of Supervisors. That's for illegal action. And maybe some of these are. I don't want to paint too broad a swath, but the main point is look for the clues in their logos. Are there globes everywhere? But they're also talking about, do they really have the hidden globalist agenda? Are they talking about all these international laws and international COVID emergency hotlines? Why does it have to be international? It should be local. It should be the most local possible. So that always, I'm not going to say it's an exact red flag, but it makes me scratch my head and go, why is everybody talking about the Nuremberg Code? First of all, it's not a law. And even if it was, it would be an international law. And we are not guided by international law. Why would you want to put forth more weight into an international code of law or code of ethics if we're trying to sidestep globalism? I don't understand it. Doesn't make sense to me. And remember, that's the next one. Truth is simple. You have a simple truth about your rights to not become a human pincushion. And if you're at the workplace, it's called Title VII. There are only two things. You notify your employer, they accommodate you. Now, the employers are going through all the machinations and all of the deception and all the confusion and making it complex and coming back with all these layers and layers of questions and intrusive, unnecessary, excessive, outlandish violations of your privacy. They're the ones that are doing the spin cycle. The law is clear. It couldn't be any more clear. I just did a live stream about my legal action. There's a law that the government has to follow during an emergency, and they say they don't have to follow it because it's an emergency. I'm like, it couldn't be any more clear. So those that are steeped in all of the deception and the confusion, oh, it's far too complicated. You'll have to take that is a red flag for me. Truth is simple. Now, there are those of you that want my help, that have asked for me to teach you classes about this because you want to go deeper and deeper and deeper, and that's fine. Maybe you want that moral support. You want to support what I'm doing. So again, having someone teach you things is not necessarily the red flag, but it's the concept where they're presenting information that is so complex and so confusing. They're the only ones that can figure it out. No, that is a red flag. That always bothered me when people would say like, well, are you an attorney? To me, like my attorney friends that are representing me, they have never said that. In fact, we love doing our brainstorming sessions because it's so compelling and it's so empowering to come up with strategies. They're not intimidated by my knowledge. In fact, we all help each other. Yet others have demeaned those who are not doctors or those who are not teachers or those who are not attorneys. So that's another kind of thing, like this ranking and creating heroes, like the healthcare workers are heroes. And no, they're not. They're well-paid, hardworking individuals that I hope are following the law, but so is my plumber and electrician and the guy that fixed my internet and the person that, fixed my car. And I don't like this ranking of hierarchy of professions. That always rubbed me the wrong way. All right. So another one that bugs me. Are these individuals always talking about saving democracy, keeping democracy safe? I did a whole video with Brandon, the guy in the White House, and it was called Biden's Dark Obsession. And every other word was democracy, democracy, democracy. Friends, I've said it before and I'll say it again. We may have a democratic process whereby we, the people, participate in voting and so forth, but our system of government is not a democracy. In a true democracy, it is the majority rule. It is the will of the people. Listen, that means the will of the people. They can create any laws they want. That's not our form of government. We have a constitutional republic. In fact, it's the Constitution that creates the limits for the laws. Now, I know and you know that a lot of laws have been passed and they are illegitimate. And that's why we have another branch of government, which is the judiciary. And that's why I'm bringing this legal action. You know, and I know that there's so much corruption in the courts and the judges. I've seen it. I'm dealing with it. I understand it. But I don't want to throw that out because good rulings have come forth. Speaking of rulings, let's also look at those rulings a little more carefully. I've done several videos where I break down these court rulings that everybody is applauding. And first of all, they are only preliminary injunctions. They're not the final ruling. They are temporary rulings of a judge to say, hey, we're going to halt this action until the case is settled in court. So first of all, many people just read the headlines and they think that it's a done deal, and it's not a done deal. The ping pong game is still in action. Secondly, nearly every case that I have pulled apart, the judges have left language that creates a loophole. For example, the governor can't require you to become a pincushion, but the legislature can. No. The legislature can't, because that would be a violation of your constitutional right of privacy of your body and your own right of expression. I express my I worship God by keeping my body pure. And even if you don't have a religious faith, you are also protected by your ethical and moral beliefs. So no, the legislature does not have the authority to pass a law that requires you to become a human pincushion. So you have to always look at that. So when I hear people always talking about democracy, there's a website called Democracy Now, and you could not be any more leftist than that. And there are many liberals. And again, I am not political. I've never really been political on this channel at all. I stand on truth, and truth can be found on all sides of the political aisle. But I will say that there are some agendas in the progressive movement that I believe they are hijacking, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they are hijacking this freedom movement so that they can sneak in their other agenda things like, a climate emergency and gender justice and all of that other stuff that typically goes with, on that side. And again, I don't even like to separate. I think that's another tactic of the deceivers, is that they really, really, really heavily hit this right, left, this. I'm all about right and wrong. I'm all about truth and evil. So I guess I am divisive in that way, but there can be people on all sides of the aisle that follow there. Okay. The other thing that is a red flag for me are those that constantly go on and on and on and on about the actual existence of cooties. Now, I know many of you lovely, healthy Americans have told me that you've had it and that you've been tested for it and you had the symptoms and that you've recovered, or that maybe you had loved ones that got it and they met their demise. And my heart goes out to anyone that has suffered, that has been ill, anyone that has lost a loved one. It's absolutely atrocious. But what I keep going back to are two facts. And one fact is that the cooties has never been properly isolated. And I'll do a third fact, that the whole concept of a contagious disease is a theory. I'm treading on thin ice here, I know, but it is a theory, and it's called virology, and it's a theory. Theories are not facts. They are something that it's like a working idea that you then need to, you have to be able to prove, you have to be able to falsify, you have to be able to replicate. This is called the scientific method. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's not even enough information in virology to give it the status of a theory. It's more like a hypothesis, which is lower. And then an idea is even below that, like, hey, I have an idea. This is probably how people are getting sick. So I just want to put that on the record. There are so many good books out there. Many of you know some of the doctors. I don't want to mention the names now because the algorithm picks that up. But if you go on my Substack, I do deep dive articles, and this is going to be a great one. And I will give you some names of people that you can look up. I appeared in the movie Terrain, which is another theory of how people get sick, meaning your body itself is sick. And for whatever reason, it is going through a detox period. I just want to be clear for the YouTubers that may be reviewing this, that I am only speaking about these theories in a theoretical manner. And these are things to question deeper. So the fact is that the isolation of the cooties has never occurred. And the other fact is that these, I'll just say the word examinations that they use to determine why someone is sick. Well, first of all, that's never been determined to work, right? I'll just put it that way. It's very unreliable. And I've done videos about that in the past. And the other thing is, if cooties is so contagious that you have to cover your face and all that, even if you don't have any symptoms, then if you're going to be tested, why can't you just go, why can't you just breathe on the little swab? Like, isn't that, can't they hold it 6 feet apart, like maybe 5 feet apart, and you breathe on it? Because they said that's how you catch it. Am I missing something? So yeah, when people go on and on and on about everybody that they've cured from the cooties, that raises a red flag for me. I'm not saying people don't get sick. I have a great video that so many of you loved and commented on and gave me ideas about. And that question was, what is really going on? Why do people get sick? How is it that my husband and I live in the same house, right? I mean, 25 years plus, and he can get sick and I don't, or I can get sick and he doesn't. How does that happen? Exactly. If it was through coughing or sneezing or something. Just asking. So I don't care for those that are being promoted in the media, always talking about all the cure for cooties and their protocols. And I did a deep dive on the I word, that's a horse. I did a deep dive on my Substack if you want to read all about some incredible research that we uncovered all about the I word. And more people are coming out promoting that. It raises suspicions for me, just saying. Another thing that troubles me is, are you being fear-mongered? Are they bombarding you with traumatic images of things that we really don't need to see? That's called trauma bonding, and it's a manipulative way. I think maybe once or twice on this channel, I actually showed a woman being arrested, and it was quite distressing, and I actually took that video down because it was so distressing. And I realized I don't want people to be exposed to that. And I understand there will be those of you that will say, Peggy, you can't have your head in the sand. You need to see those things. I don't need to see them. Just like I don't need to see child abuse, and I don't need to see animal abuse, and I don't need to see somebody being murdered to know that it happens. I don't need to see it. I don't watch those things. I don't watch violent movies. I don't listen to popular music. I don't like the lyrics. I don't care for any of that. I am very, very careful. I like to keep my vessel pristine, and I do not want to bombard my senses with endless, unnecessary traumatic images that are exactly the other side of the coin for what the mainstream media was doing to you, bombarding you with all of this, these numbers of people that were dying and the computer models. Well, the ones that are showing you all of this other grotesque footage, they're doing the same thing. And I know that you healthy Americans can see through that. All right, they're using the same hogwash tactics that the evildoers are doing. I'm not saying that they're evildoers, but I am saying that I'm skeptical, and that raises red flag for me. So how do I know that they're not the fakes, frauds, and phonies? I also mentioned, are they as confusing and complicated and complex as the evildoers, constantly changing what they were saying and then coming up with a whole new thing, and who knows what's true and what's false anymore? Are they talking about the common good and how you should be a part of it? Look for those phrases. Look for those phrases when people are talking about the Nuremberg Code and not belonging to the international health regulations, because, you know, in the case of a real emergency, you still should do what's right for the common good. I already exposed the not so great Barrington Declaration. That's all in favor of cooties cocktails, all in favor of isolation of the elderly and the retired, all in favor of childhood cocktails. I exposed that one, and it was a petition that everybody signed on to. I also exposed the Public Health Information Council in Florida. Now, I don't have a beef with DeSantis. I don't know the man personally. As I say, I'd much rather have him here in California than the gruesome that we have. But I raised my eyebrows when I read and dug deeper about this public health committee. No, you don't need a public health committee because it's individual health and it's your choice. So I don't like that he gave a spin on it that we're protecting you. We'll let you know whether or not you have to follow the federal guidelines. Well, you just said they're guidelines, so no, I don't have to follow them. And even if it was a law, I wouldn't follow it anyway, because I only follow God, not man, and I do not give my bodily sovereignty over to others. So everybody was applauding that, and I was uncovering and exposing the pitfalls. Now, I'm not saying it was done deceptively on purpose. I would say that most people didn't dig like I did. They didn't even look to see who was on it. And a number of those people who are on this committee signed on to that great, not so great Barrington Declaration. And they probably are talking about the Nuremberg Code. So no, I raise my eyebrows at all of that. Aren't I allowed to question? Aren't I allowed to dig deeper? Isn't having a curious mind far superior than just complying and being obedient? Yes, it is. Sadly, everybody goes to these public schools and the kids are taught to be obedient and not to question. I don't care for it whatsoever. Are they talking about, are they saying that if the suffocation devices really work, then they would wear one? I've heard freedom people say, well, if they worked, I would do it. Are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? That opens the door for the government to come up with some sort of study that shows that they work. And then you're going to have to eat your words. I don't care if it's a magic mask that helps you live to be 120 with never a wrinkle. I don't care. Ain't going to do it because it's my body. All right. So what else? Are they constantly being promoted in mainstream media? Are they appearing on all of the, even the conservative shows on all of those 3-letter news media shows? All right. You're never going to see me on one. They are never, ever going to invite me to be on those shows. I am fighting for you and for me and for the evildoers and the serpents and the hogwashers in what is probably one of the most important cases, certainly in Orange County, definitely in California, and possibly in this country. Do you think I can even get one press release picked up? Do you think I could even have a local news station even ask me for an opinion about it? Every board of supervisors meeting that I went to, that I was basically on the planters with the microphone and the bullhorn, exhorting people as to what to do. And do you think the news agencies interviewed me? No, because they don't like my truth. They have their own agenda, their own narrative, and I don't fit it. Do these people constantly show up on each other's shows? Just asking, just asking. That'll give you a big tip to dig deeper. I'm not saying that's the end all be all. There are probably amazing truth tellers that have shown up in mainstream merry-go-round media. It's not the only thing, but it can be a tip off. These are just things to dig deeper on, friends. I'm not painting a broad swath. These are things that I look at and I go, I wonder why. I'm going to dig deeper. Do they walk their talk, as I talked about earlier, or do they are they all just bloviating a bunch of hot air? Do they ever give you action steps? Do they ever encourage you? Do they tell you how to stand up for yourselves? Or do they just foment the fear? Do they end their vehement speeches saying, we've got to do something? Well, what and how and where? Have they spent thousands of hours compiling the laws, creating free documents for you to use? Do they have a YouTube channel with, I've taken down many of the videos, but over the 3 years, thousands of videos of free educational videos to actually teach you what to say, how to stand up for your rights? Or are they just putting you into the spin cycle frenzy? Just asking. Have they gone along with the nasal assault? Have they even gotten a cocktail? Are they saying, again, I'm kind of circling back, that they are in favor of the safe cocktails? Are they perhaps a manufacturer or a creator of the cocktails, coming across very affable and friendly? And before you know it, you're like, well, if you know, that sounds pretty good after all, because I want to be healthy, don't want to be sick. I'm just reading here. Would they require of you to show a negative nasal assault in order to attend one of their events? Just asking. Just asking. All right, have a couple more here, friends, and I want to see what you're saying. As my husband will tell you, you get what you see. You see what, I think that's how it goes. This is who I am. This is how I am. Day in, day out, all day, every day. Are they pushing their own agenda? Do they do the bait and switch, where you believe that they're on your side, and then once you get in and you start watching or reading, you're like, oh, they're now talking about how I should give up my cash, and I should go to a tiny home and have an electric car. Now, friends, you can do all those things if you want to, as long as it's your choice and not because somebody is persuading or compelling or coercing you to do so. There you go. I think I've said it all. Are they all spin and no solutions? There's probably a lot more. Those are the things that come to mind. And again, I am in favor of action that works. I applaud those that have taken a stand. I actually don't know that many people personally in this movement. I may have even shared public speaking events with some people that now I may go back and go, I wonder if they were the real deal. You may be wondering that about me. I want you to dig deeper. I want you to apply those same standards against what I'm telling you and my messages and how I act, because that is what is at the root of critical thinking, of not accepting what anybody says without digging deeper, of asking questions, of matching it up against your own discernment, against your own intelligence, and not just accepting and being swept up by somebody like, I don't want to use names, so I wouldn't say Elon Musk or anything, but someone like that suddenly is on the scene and now they're your savior and they're doing such great things. Oh, really? Oh, really? He himself, and I've got a video called Elon Musk's Strange Comments, he even said that he got the cocktail and a couple of secondary ones because he had to. Okay, that again is a way, in my opinion, of making it okay for others to say, well, I had to keep my job. Well, how is it that I have helped hundreds of thousands of people through my free videos and a smaller number privately to keep their job without the jab? How is it that I've helped people keep their integrity and their dignity and to avoid this, to make those decisions that suit them and are aligned with their ethics and morals? And then for him to say, well, I hope I don't have any side effects. And it kind of normalizes it. So I find that very curious. I'll just put it that way. And I didn't like it. There are many things I've done many videos about him because he's a public person. And I think that it's interesting to ask questions. Again, I'm not about pointing a finger, exposing anyone too much. It's about saying, what is really going on here? Who can I trust in this sea of voices? And I know, friends, because many of you, maybe not you on this video, but many people email me links to videos and articles and things. And I appreciate that. I'm grateful that you are involved and want to be aware and are sending me things. But some of those things I look at and I'm wondering if you actually watched the video or if you even read the thing that you're sending me, or if you're just forwarding, because that's another part of their ploy is you get people to forward everything and share everything. And you haven't really done the deep digging previously. That's what happened with that great Barrington Declaration. So there you have it, friends. I'm going to take a look at some of your comments here. And I also did my comments about the I was calling him a whistleblower. I know it wasn't exactly a whistleblower. That's why I had it in quotation marks. Some people didn't understand that quotation marks kind of mean sarcastic. So I had a lot of questions about that whole scenario and how it did not look real to me. And I did, upon viewing it on a second and third time, I did realize that it did come across a little bit as an expose, and I didn't mean for that to be. I used it as a critical thinking exercise. So I still have it on the channel. It is set to private and unlisted because that's not what I'm about. I'm about critical thinking. I'm about digging deeper. I'm about giving you criteria like this. I also do that. I have a video called How to Watch the News, and it's the same thing. What to look for. How do you know if they're telling you the truth? Well, if it's on the mainstream news, you pretty much know. It's not. But what is the mainstream news? What are their strategies? What are their techniques? What are their tactics? What's their MO? What are some of the things that you can look for? So I did a whole video about that, not necessarily pointing out any kind of the, mass bang bangs and all of that, which so many of these things are fake, phony, orchestrated, sensationalized, set up. I don't need to point out every single one. You just look at the criteria and say, okay, there's a red flag, there's a red flag, there's a red flag. So that's where I am, friends. There are people that are going to come and go. I'm not naming names, and I don't think it's important to name names. I think it's just important for you to know as you're looking at this information, who can I trust? Why do I trust them? What's the information they're sharing? Can I dig deeper? There's a wonderful website. I think it's called Open Text. I think I'll do a video on that later. And you can go in there and you can find out who has gotten money from the pharmaceutical companies. You type in their name. It's a government, actually, website or something. I think it's called, if anybody knows, put that in the comments. Open Text, Open Case, something like that. And you can type in and you can put in the person's name and you can see which pharmaceutical companies gave them money. And that will also open your eyes to some of these prominent individuals that are ostensibly, I don't know if they're fighting for your freedom. I'm all about freedom. I'm all about the rights. Give me any topic area, any subject matter, and I'll talk about your rights in that area. It doesn't have to be about cooties. It doesn't have to be about the suffocation device. It doesn't have to be about the nasal assault. It doesn't have to be about the cocktail, which is why I'm not focused on the cocktail per se. All right. I think I've gone on long enough, friends. I can't wait. Okay. usaspending.gov. Thank you for that, Olivia. And okay, the Super Bowl. I'm not even going to talk about that because I don't even want to give it the light of day. I'm not going to talk about any of those people in those other events that were on TV. Again, I want to keep my vessel pristine. Just like I don't indulge in junk food. I don't watch scary movies. I don't watch the mainstream news. Bit by bit, I'll get a few clips here and there, on YouTube of news programs, but I do not even have a television with cable or any of that. I don't want to expose myself to that. I don't go to bars. I don't, I'm just telling you, I have certain things in my lifestyle that I do and that I don't do. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't ride a motorcycle. I have lovely, healthy Americans that love motorcycles. It's just not for me. Everybody has different lifestyles. And I like a lifestyle where I seek to elevate my physical body, my mental, my emotional, my spiritual, my intellectual, right? I don't read the, whatever those magazines are at the grocery store with all the celebrities' faces on it and all. Back in the day, it was kind of funny to see, kind of fun to see the fashion, whatever. I don't care for that. It pollutes my mind. So no, I'm not going to talk about the not Super Bowl. I will watch the Puppy Bowl. That's what I'll do. I'll have to see that online. I don't even want to give that the time of day. I'd rather speak in these general ways so that you can apply this information at any case that comes up, because heaven knows they're going to be coming up with climate emergencies and gender emergencies and power emergencies. And it's not going to have anything to do with the cocktail at all. And those that have been on the forefront talking about the cooties cure and all of that, they won't be as significant because their information was not about your rights and it was not about critical thinking. And I hope that they are legitimate, and I hope that people are learning and thriving because of what they're sharing, but it just dig deeper. All right, friends, I'm going to stop right there. Thanks for joining me. I like the Saturday afternoon lives. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to continue with the Saturday afternoons there and evenings. It's a lot of fun for me. I feel that more people are coming online at that time, and we can really roll up our sleeves and dig deeper. All right, friends, be sure that you sign up for my free Substack. And thank you to everyone that did a voluntary financial subscription. All the content is free, but those of you wanted to support me, and that goes toward that lawsuit, and I really appreciate it. And I can't wait for you to read the version of this in the Substack that will be coming soon. And we always are doing deep dives for those of you that really want to dig beneath the headlines. All right, friends, finally signing off. That was the Tennessee goodbye, wasn't it? All right, I'll see you in an upcoming broadcast.